diving on in to the one episode I really want to talk about and like scares me to death to talk about. It's casting. Where do I cast? You would think this should be an easy one. It's not going to be an easy one. It's going to be the hardest one. So if y'all are ready, let's jump on in. If you're new to my channel, Todd Castline, I fish a lot of tournaments. I fish probably over 200 with co-anglers. So I've kind of done it all. Now, normally I don't have this, but here's my warning. Okay, get ready. Here it is. Here's my warning. If you cannot handle this, you need to stop watching this video. If you can't handle what's about to be said, this is going to be some grown-up talk. This is going to be so if you're Karen, dude, if you're Karen, get on out. Like, this might not be the right video for you. If you want this to be all nice and fluffy and teddy bears and bunny rabbits and everything like that, you know, you're going to get your feelings hurt. This ain't the video. Go watch some of my other videos. I try to be nice on them. This is just real talk. I always told y'all I was going to be as real as possible. I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm not saying, you know, that you have to agree. You can disagree all you want to. I get it. Life's always not fair. Sometimes it's in. But I'm going to try in all my other videos I did, the 4 other videos, I'm trying to help y'all out as much as possible on little things to make it easier for y'all. This is one of those ones that some guys do worry about. I will say this video is probably not for most of y'all. I would say probably 75% of y'all, this video, it doesn't matter to y'all. Now, some of y'all in that 75% that I think do the right thing, y'all kind of want to know, like, y'all want to make sure that y'all aren't doing anything wrong. This is for the boaters too, by the way, because some of these boaters are wrong in what they tell y'all to do as well. Like, I've heard some stories as well about what they tell y'all not to do. So I'm going to try to give y'all my best explanation of what I think is right and wrong from my point of view, and a little bit from the tournament director's point of view, because I've had some talks to him about this. So after all that, let's jump on in. Where do we cast? Or where should I be able to cast? They will tell you you're not supposed to, a boater's not supposed to tell you they can't cast somewhere. I don't really understand that, because they've actually told us that, and I've went and asked when I was fishing the tour, what's right and what's wrong. So they tell you can't tell a co-angler not to cast somewhere, but then they also tell a co-angler that you probably shouldn't cast here. So it's kind of a mixed signals. So I don't understand why they say that. But here it is. If you want to be that guy and cast all over your guy, be that guy. It's going to be a horrible day. It's just going to be a horrible day. If that's what you want, it's going to be a horrible day. Now, if you, like most people, like most of us, we just want a good, nice day, and both of us catch a bunch of fish and we go on in there, weigh them in, freaking let's just be in first place and not have to deal with any of the other stuff, right? Here's what it is. There are going to be a million situations that I'm probably going to get comments on that I'm not really talking about that situation. I can't go over every situation, but I'm going to try to go over the most broad aspect of how to deal with it. First is, if you're one of those guys that never cast up, you know, front, this video is irrelevant to you and you're just going to do your thing. If you're worried about certain things, let's go over them. Let's start off with this. If you're going down the bank, this is probably the hardest one. If you're going down the bank, I'm not too worried about this is the front half, this is the back half, things like that. I'm a guy who goes fast. So I'm usually casting way in front of the boat, going down the bank fast. I'm not worried if you cast in front of the boat a little bit, you know, to keep up with how fast I'm going. That's fine. Normally, most guys, like me, I get to going to where you can kind of see my next cast, like either what I'm fishing or what I'm doing. And you can kind of see that. Now, you can kind of keep track with all that, right? You can kind of go down the bank and go, okay, he's casting here. I should be able to cast here. And you keep a pretty good distance away. No big deal. There are times though, and you have to watch, and it should be on me, that I might want to make multiple casts at an object, but I'll usually slow down, power pull down, do something like that. If you ever think you get too close, then you probably got too close. Okay. If the guy kind of like does something, kind of like looks back or does something kind of different, it probably means he thought you probably got a little too close. So you can kind of look at him and kind of tell. So that's one thing. What I really wanted to ask about was this, okay, is going down a straight bank or any kind of bank is pretty easy. It's when we get to pockets. And this is what I had to ask about. And this is the way I was told, and it makes sense. As a boater, I believe we should have first access to anything in front of us, okay? So if we're pulling up and the bank either makes a pocket, and we're going to go in that pocket, and say we're throwing it at stumps, right? And you can see the stumps down the bank. I'm picking something real simple, but it could be bushes, boat docks. It could be anything you can kind of tell. It doesn't really matter. We're going down the bank, and we've been throwing at stumps for an hour. And as you go in this pocket, in your head, you might be like, well, I'm in the back of the boat. I can throw across this pocket and reach over there, but it's behind him, so I'm good. And you go throw at a stump that he hasn't gotten to, right? He's going to get to it in probably 3 or 4 more casts, right? It's a pocket, and you just bomb out over there on a stump. To me, I would consider that a no-no. And the reason I would consider that is like, you knew I was going to throw at that stump. I just hadn't gotten to it yet. And you just had access to it because, you're in the back of the boat and you're like, oh, I can just make a cast over there. Well, that's kind of fish in water that he was about to fish. Like, it would basically be like saying, hey, he's 3 casts away from making that cast because he's about to turn. And hey, I see a stump way out in front of him, and I'm going to bomb way out in front of him and hit that stump. I mean, he's going to hit that. So that's the kind of stuff that I would be very careful about, is when you're in a pocket or something and you start throwing to the other side at things he's about to go down and fish, okay? Especially down the bank. Those are things that, man, I would never do, because you he's about to do it. And so now, and as a boater, I can stop that. I can honestly now I have to sit out there in the middle of the pocket and cast at both sides of the pocket and do all that deal, which is going to slow us down. It's not as effective. It puts you at a worse spot. It puts you less places to cast. I'm just telling you, it doesn't work out well. So I would keep that in mind. So that's kind of stuff going down the bank. We'll kind of stay on the bank stuff. I'm a guy though that say we're going down the bank and I am just throwing at stumps. And I have zero problem you asking like, hey, are you going to hit any of this other stuff over there? And I'm going to be the first one to say, fire away. Like, if I'm going around boat docks, not firing at boat docks, which I do on occasion, like I don't care about the boat docks. I care about what's behind the boat docks or in the bank. And I'm like, dude, throw at every boat dock you want to. I'll tell you that. Like, I don't care if you throw in front of me. When I go in between boat docks, fish the other boat dock in front, I do not care. Like, I'm one of those guys that if I'm doing my thing, I don't care what you do around me, in the sense of you can cast in front of me, as long as it's not impeding where I want to cast. But like I said, you're cool. Like, cast away, cast in front. I do the same thing when I'm sight fishing. I tell the guys, I'll tell them, I'm like, hey, look, I'm going down the bank looking. I'm going to be going really fast. As long as you don't throw in front of me on the bank I'm about to look at, because a lot of times that spooks the fish. The bait hitting the water and it spooks the fish. I never get to see the fish. But other than that, like, if you want to throw on the other side, like way in front of the boat, do all these things, by all means. Like, I won't even be casting at this point in time. I'll be like, dude, just cast, throw. Like, do whatever you need to do to catch a fish, as long as that my one little section in front of me is not thrown at to where it won't spook a fish. I'm not casting for the same reason. I don't want to spook one if I see one, because a lot of times the bait hits the water and it spooks a fish off of bed. So if I'm not casting there, I probably wouldn't want you casting there either. But other than that, cast away. Like I said, cast in front, cast cast whatever you want to do on the other side of the boat, cast behind, I don't care. Okay. So talking to your guy will help you. Hopefully your guy, you can kind of see a pattern with how he's fishing. Okay. And that helps you. But like I said, ask the guy. And now he might not say yes. I don't know. I'm a guy who will say yes, go ahead and make those casts, do whatever you want to do. Those are the kind of things that I would pay attention to. This is one about, for me, I don't know how many other guys talk about this. Every other bait I don't care about except one. There's one bait where I don't want your bait and my bait close to each other. And this is when we team fish. And it is really when we team fish. So me and my team partners talk about this all the time. I don't want a loud buzz bait next to any other topwater of mine. and two topwaters going side by each other, I think diminish what's going on, especially if you got, like, you're trying to draw that fish into your bait and you've got two different baits like making noises and doing stuff like that. I've always seen, I don't know, I've seen it not be good. I've seen it not work well. Like, you don't get as many bites. It seems like that topwater by itself out there doing its thing, it has a drawing power from very far away. When I mean by drawing power, if this doesn't make sense, like, topwaters draw fish from pretty far away because of the sound on top of the water. So if you've got one, I swear, man, if you got one, you're throwing like a topwater not making a lot of noise, and you hear this splash, blah, 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 and you hear this big old, I swear it just does something to them, and you won't get as many bites on the buzzbait or your topwater. So I'm just going to throw that in there. But for the most part, talk to your guy, ask him. Now, other thing, the boaters, and I've heard this, so if you're fishing a point, say throwing a Carolina rig, and you're throwing up, and it's a broad point, not like a small little point, like a big giant broad point. It's going to take you 10, 15 casts to turn around. I've had some boaters apparently tell some guys, hey, don't throw up on this point, even after they've passed it. I'd be like, hey man, look, it's a big point. You don't want me throwing on it. Maybe you shouldn't be fishing it, because that doesn't make any sense. Like, you should be able to cast behind a guy 1,000% of the time. I can't really think of a situation where if he's thrown up there 3 or 4 times and he passes it and you're just making your normal cast too, that's one of those deals where I would say, hey, I don't get that. Now, the only time when maybe that's a tough one, and y'all know what it is, it's like the wind deal. The wind you're having to stay off of a point and it's blowing you into a point and you're having to face the other direction. And you might talk to your guy like, hey, where are you wanting to cast? I'm like, hey, I know I have to cast kind of over you. Would you mind? And that's one of those deals that's, you kind of have to let your boater have control over where he wants to make that cast, even though it's kind of in your way. But it's one of those deals where if there's fish there, y'all got to sit there and fish it. Like, if you really want to catch some fish, I mean, it just sucks that the wind's blowing you in there and he has to face into the wind to fish it. So I would give him a little bit of leeway of throwing kind of where he wants to and saying, hey, am I good over here? Like I said, talking to guys should disclaimer, should make it easier. And that's one of the deals. Out deep's a tough one, because you would think out deep, it's amazing sometimes. And yes, there are places where it's a single cast, but I got to be honest with you. A lot of those times it's not. And even if it is, there's no real difference between a guy throwing at a single stump on a single cast and a guy out there deep throwing at something deep on a single cast. That's still kind of his cast, right? So I would never get too close to where he's fishing. Now, I'm sure a lot of y'all can look on the GPS and look at things and go, well, he's trying to fish that right there. I'm going to throw over there too. Like I said, I mean, it's one of those deals that I probably wouldn't do it, because I've seen so many of my guys, especially when we're fishing like ridges and things like that, it's really sometimes just bait stuff. So, I mean, if you can catch fish, just switching up different baits and stuff and catch a different fish. The older I've gotten and the more the drop shots and the Ned rigs and the Carolina rigs and the spoons and all these things are coming out. Before then, it was like Texas rig and Carolina rig, right? And if they didn't eat those two things or a crankbait, you're pretty much, screwed. Well, now, man, there's like 20 different baits that work out deep really, really well. And so you don't have to cast right on your guy. You can cast pretty far away and still pick up these fish. I mean, that are pretty much just pressured is what they are. And you're picking up fish. You're figuring out a different way to catch them. So that's what I would say to that. Boat dock should be easy. Like I said, if you're fishing boat docks, it kind of comes into the entire bank deal again, like a pocket deal. If he's fishing boat docks and he goes inside of a boat dock and there's a boat dock you can cast to over here, man, in my opinion, and that's what I was told on the tour, is that like, hey man, that's fresh water that he's about to hit. So it's kind of like you fishing in front of him once, like throwing over him. I know you're not throwing over him, but he's literally going to make a couple casts on his boat dock and turn around and fish that side of the boat dock. So that's some of those ones that I would stay away from. Now, if you do all this, don't be surprised if it turns out to be a really, really miserable day for you. Okay. What can happen in rules violations? It kind of depends on how far they want to take it. But I'm just telling you, despite all that, it can just be a really miserable day. It can get uncomfortable. It can get, words can be exchanged. Then, I've seen guys drop guys off on the bank. It just, I don't recommend that. I've never even thought about doing something like that. But you're both in it together to a degree, even though you're not weighing your fish together. You're both in it. Try to make the best of it. And I know some of these guys y'all draw. There's a difference, guys. And I might have been called some of a bad draw. I don't try to put my guy in a bad situation, but I might be a bad draw because the guy doesn't like my style of fishing. Okay, to me that's different. Okay, I've had a ton of coiners tell other guys that I go too fast. That works for me though. I catch fish doing that. So you might not like it, but it's effective. You might be able to have the best day of your life, getting to cast wherever you want to. It's great out here deep. You're not moving very fast. And you zero because you weren't around anything, right? So just because you might not like the style doesn't mean it's a bad draw, right? Like I said, I've had so many guys sight fishing where they're like, oh, that's a horrible draw. He's going to be sight fishing. And then the next day I get a guy who's like, all right, he's sight fishing. I'm going to be able to throw anywhere I want to and fish for all these fish that he's not fishing for and smash them, right? So once again, it goes into how you perceive the day, your expectations, what I talked about in, I think it was episode 1. So these are the kind of things, just because you might think he's a bad draw, it's only because of his style, not because of what he's doing wrong. Now, there are bad draws. There are bad draws that they put you in bad situations as coiners where they don't allow you to do anything. That's when you really got to be creative. And sometimes, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know if there's anything y'all can do about it. And I know it sucks. Like I feel for y'all. Like that's why I don't fish coiner side. I couldn't handle most of it, much less that stuff. Cause like I said, my style, I want to fish fast. Most guys don't fish fast. So I get very bored and looking around going, why are we still sitting here after 3 hours with no bites? Right. Or this isn't working. Can't you tell we're not catching them? I would think the worst would be y'all coiners that are catching them a certain way and your boater's not, and he still chooses not to do it or doesn't even want to go try it anywhere else. I get it, guys. So, but there is a difference between a bad draw, as in you just don't like his style or what he's doing, as opposed to a guy just not around fish, not doing what he should be. I'd rather take the guy that's not my style but still around fish as a guy who Fish is more my style, but it's not around anything. Like, you have zero shot. This casting deals can be tough. It shouldn't be that tough, guys. I mean, kind of just think about what you would want to happen to you. Now, like I said, I cannot comment on the guys that tell you, hey, don't cast there because of this reason. I know I said that for the sight fishing one, but I'm talking about a 10-foot section of a bank in front of me. I'm not talking about everywhere else. I'm not talking about somewhere where I've casted at bushes and I go past them and say, hey, don't cast at those bushes. I've heard of guys doing stuff like that. They're like, hey, I'm gonna come back to them. Well, no, I mean, if you want to come back to them, fish them. Like, you shouldn't. That's what they talk about when we say you shouldn't be allowed to cast somewhere. I know some guys are saying, oh, you're casting on a fish on a bed and you tell your guy not to cast there. That should be a given. You know, like, just like if you make a cast as a co-angler, I'm not going to sit there and throw on top of your line all day long either. Like, that's given stuff, right? So I had to say some of this because I know it goes on, but it shouldn't. And I think most of you guys, I'd say 95% of y'all guys know this. And so it's not that difficult. What I'm trying to do, though, is maybe open up some little avenues for y'all, different little situations, different things to think about. Like I said, that's why I brought up my Carolina rig the last video. Okay. That's where one of those is, if he's fishing the bank, say, hey man, this is a good one, guys. I'm gonna throw this little bonus tip in here. Say this: I hate going down the bank and a co-angler bombs something way in the back and gets hung up, right? Because then I have to turn around, go over there and get it, right? It just messes up the flow. So here's a good one for you. If the guy's going down the bank and you think you can catch someone like a Carolina rig or something, say, hey man, do you mind if I cast way in front of the boat, but it's going to be way on out there, nothing where you're going, and say this, go, hey, you know, like, I'm going to be throwing this rig a lot. I don't want to get hung up and have you have to circle back around. So if I actually do get hung up, it's going to be in front of the boat, not way behind it. Stuff like that. And be like, yeah, man, that's fine. You know, like, I would be like, yeah, man, bomb away up there. Right? Because in my head, I'd rather want you to bomb away up in the front where I'm not planning on casting. And if you do get hung up, it's going to be easier for me to just kind of swing out, let you get it and keep going, rather than circle all the way back 50 yards back there and waste 5 minutes. So that's a little tip. There's little things you can maybe do and give him a reason, right? Give him a reason that makes sense to why you're going to do something. And I bet you he's more apt to let you to do it, or more apt to be like, yeah, man, that's fine. And so you're going to find different avenues of cast, different ways to catch a fish. And hopefully, you know, it'll work out for you. So I hope that wasn't too bad. I hope that helps. I know I'm going to get comments on this. Okay. And I'm going to get these scenarios and whatever, and I'll try to answer them. Maybe there'll be a scenario on there that I didn't cover. I can't cover them all. So go ahead and leave them. If you're the guy in the back, you know, with his arm raised and wants to go throw thumbs down and stuff like that, I get it too, man. Listen, I'm probably never going to make you happy as well either. Like, you're going to probably draw me and hate fishing with me. I don't care if you were leading it or I was leading it and we were around 1,000 fish. You're probably not going to like it. I can't help that. But I've had a lot of guys win with me. I've had a lot of guys freaking, this last Toyota series I fished, my guy on day 2 had big bass. My guy on day 3 had the biggest bass overall. You can ask a couple of these guys that have won with me. So, you know, it's just all, I don't feel bad. On my last video, I was like, hey, I don't feel bad if my guy catches them or not, because I've had so many guys catch them with me that I can't make you catch one, right? And so it's up to the co-angler to catch his fish. And just like if he's smashing on them, it's not the co-angler's job to help the boater out either, right? If he's smashing on his boater, let him smash on him. It's not the co-angler's job to help show the boater how to catch fish, right? So it works either way. So anyways, I hope y'all like this one. I hope I don't just get bombarded by stuff. But like I said, I'm trying to give y'all the real stuff. A lot of people always want the real stuff. Like, they want the real talk. They want you to be honest, and then they hear honesty, and it oh, they don't really want that. They want a feel good stuff. Well, I'm just trying to be honest, and I think honesty, when it comes down to it, will help the situations go by, because you can tiptoe around all this, but this is what it is, guys. This is, I'm trying to give you all the best way for y'all to succeed and to have a good day out there on the water. And, hopefully the way you are, if you do have a bad draw as a boater, hopefully the way you are makes that draw get better. Maybe you teach this boater a little bit more on how he should be able to act on the water. Little tips and advice, some things that maybe I've said. Bring my name up. I don't care. Tell them, see what they say. So it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot rather than being back there being miserable on a horrible day. So anyways, hope this helps, guys. Maybe, I don't know, this might be my last episode. It might not be. It kind of depends on the comments over the next couple days. So we'll see. Anyways, see y'all.